Marvel Rivals is a difficult game, and if you came from Overwatch you might not think so, or you're hard stuck because you're already set in your ways, but coming from Valorant, having never played a hero shooter, I was hard stuck low plat, diamond, and grandmaster, and just recently hit top 800 and rank 18 on Hela in this new season. And Marvel Rivals has a few sticking points for the skill gaps, so here's all of the game-changing advice that dug me out of being hard stuck. I do put a lot of effort into these videos, so all I ask for is a like, subscribe if you're new here, 10K by the end of the year would be pretty cool, turn the bell on, and come say hi on Twitch if you want to chat. Let's roll. Pressure does not equal damage. This is the biggest misconception in lower ranks, and Marvel Rivals is all about pressure. And there's a lot of ways to apply pressure, like forcing out ults or fake engaging. Pressure could be a full video on its own, so if you'd like that, let me know in the comments. But the biggest way to apply pressure is to position yourself where it takes attention off of your teammates and puts it onto you. For instance, you're a Punisher main and your healers are constantly getting dove by a Spider-Man. Instead of playing in front of them, where Spider-Man has pick of the litter on who he wants to dive, choose an Overwatch angle, maybe off to the side, adjacent to your healers, ping healing so they know you're up there if you're in lower ranks, where you can instantly help them whenever they get dove, or better yet, shoot at the Spider-Man before he dives, forcing him onto you, which is a much more difficult to kill 300 HP target, and hopefully your healers will have enough awareness to help you out. Or, if you're a Psylocke/Starlord player against a team with 2 fat shield tanks and 2 standard healers you can't burn through, find a super safe angle you can kind of pester the healers from, just to make them look at each other or look at you. There's almost no kill pressure there, that's okay. The more they look at you and heal each other, the less they're healing the tanks. The less pressure the tanks have to walk forward, and the more opportunities for picks that you create for your team. And this goes for tanks and healers too. If you're a Hulk, just because they're playing Rocket Jeff, and they're unkillable and rage-inducing to actually chase around, the more they're running from you, the more they can't heal. This is something I see all the time when my Hulk or Captain America is now ignoring the backline just because they're unkillable, even in Eternity/One Above All lobbies. If you're scrambling against each other in a 1v1 running around, you've essentially traded yourself for a healer. And a 5v5, 1 healer versus 2 is almost a guaranteed win. Just chase the rats around. And supports are always juicy targets too. So if you want to get in on this, play a little farther forward, maybe away from your other healer. You have your escape, so you're okay, off to the side. And wait on the Hulk or their off tank to dive a little bit too deep on you. Throw your bubble down if you need to, blind them. But what you're trying to do is get them in a position where they're a little bit more vulnerable away from their other tank. So Hela can headshot, stun, headshot them. And whenever they use their gap closer to dive back onto their team, they're still like in front of the tanks or in a vulnerable position, but now they're chunked out. You just established a lot of momentum for you guys to pick up a kill off of it. TLDR, if you're a tank, force people to move around. Pressure out the power angles, make the healers run around, that's all good. If you're a duelist, force people to look at you. And if you're a strategist, maybe pretend to be out of position a little bit. Bait people to come onto you, Pauls. That way you can actually pick up a kill off of it. Stop positioning wrong. Positioning is the most important aspect of Marvel Rivals that every player gets wrong every game. That's because it's so nuanced and varies heavily from character to character, but here's a cheat code to make it easy and seamless for you. Let's call it the CAR checklist: cover, angle, and range. And let's keep it simple. Does that position you're currently playing in have cover? If yes, great start. Does that position you're currently playing in have an advantageous angle? Benefits would be open sight lines to and from your healers to heal you, viewpoints of the enemy tanks, and their entire retreat path. That's a very important part of it. Line of sights towards the common flank spots that the enemy team could use that you would then notice super early. If yes, the angle is beneficial, that's perfect. And add as many caveats as you can to it to try and figure out what angles are good for you. And finally, does that position allow you to operate in your most effective range, and more importantly, outside of the enemy's effective range? Whereas Starlord loves close quarters combat and easy access to spin on top of the enemy team whenever he wants to, Hela, on the other hand, loves to have wide open sight lines from deeper range for pretty quick picks. Whereas Starlord is probably not going to be playing long range, getting dominated by Hela because naturally it feels bad. You know you don't want to play there. Are you playing Hela and staying in spots that Starlord is allowed to put pressure on you very early and easily? The goal is to find positions that benefit you and blunt out the enemy strengths against you. Start here with this CAR checklist and add your own caveats to what your optimal position would have depending on the character you play. And the first thing I would add in here, if I were you, because staying alive is very important, would be easy retreat pathing. Do you have areas you can move to defensively in your mind that are easy to access and still be active and useful to your team? Once that's kind of dialed in, you're starting to find those places pretty seamlessly, you're not thinking about it too much. Add access to aggressive angles into the mix. Does that angle have a seamless path to another, more aggressive angle to play and be useful in the fights if the fights are looking good for you? And it's going to take time to get it right, but this is a tangible way for everyone to evaluate what good and bad positioning really means, and a way to kind of tailor it towards your own playstyle, because everyone plays a little differently and we can all make anything work. Rushing to the high ground or the flank is destroying your win rate. Allow me to explain. Without you, your team is in a 5v6 scenario, and your flank/high ground pick success rate goes through the roof whenever your team has pressure, and plummets to the depths of the ocean floor when your team is constantly on their back foot getting pushed in, unless you can find an angle like behind them and kill their supports. Instead of showing absolutely zero pressure when you come out of spawn and sprint for the flank, take 15 seconds to kind of utility dump, chuck a tank, get the enemy team on the back foot and establish a little bit of presence. That way, one, your team is applying presence with you. You have an ability to get your team started. And two, the other team doesn't expect you on the flank/high ground because you just showed presence main. They don't have that awareness. Most people don't, at least. It's a win-win. If your team doesn't need you to show presence, to have pressure in the 5v6, you're suffering from success already. And you'll probably win that fight without even having to go for the flank or the high ground, which is arguably a little bit more risky. Now, there are caveats. On defense, convoy, you've already established team pressure just by being on defense and allowed to get into position before the fight starts. So go ahead, take your high ground and flank and kind of wait on your moment. Secondary, whenever you're walking into a team fight like retaking point or convoy, identify if your team is going to walk in with a support ult or not, and whether you want to pressure the backline via walking with your cloak ult, which is usually the right play to be honest, or dodging off to the flank/high ground and finding your picks in the chaos of the support ults getting dropped, because a lot of times if it's support for support ult going down, there will be somebody that's playing on the outside of it just a little bit too far, and you can kill them before they get to it. And keep in mind, this tip is for everyone. Top 500 Spider-Mans are constantly showing presence on top of convoy, looking to pull like an enemy tank or someone into your team for either a free pick or just to chunk them out. That kind of instantly wins fights for you, establishes a ton of pressure and enough chaos to let your team deal with the tank while you immediately dip off and dookie on the backline that's now a little bit too far forward because they're trying to save their tank. All in all, flank is vital. When nothing else is working, go for the gusto, try to do it all yourself, but the more consistent play is making sure your team is in a position to take advantage of the pick potential you have and establish their own pressure to take heat off of you. So if you have to take a second to force your team to establish pressure, do that before you go for your picks and high ground. I'm honestly crossing my fingers for the day I see a Black Panther come out of our spawn, full combo the enemy tanks and force their entire team on the back foot and instantly dip off to the flank and win the entirety of the spawn engagement just by showing pressure and not letting his team stagnate while he gets in position that first 20 seconds of the game. If you want to rank up and improve your awareness in Marvel Rivals, just look at the scoreboard. And there are 3 bits of information here that are vital for your success, but most importantly, it's learning ult timings. And here's your cheat sheet for understanding ult timings. Jeff farms his ult the fastest, followed by Rocket, tied with Cloak pretty much, then Ultron, then Luna with a tiny margin over the rest of the pool. But what really matters is team comps. 2 tank comps farm way faster than 1 tank comps, and double shield tank comps like Magneto Emma slows that team's ult farm. Combine that with the DPS of the duelists that are on the teams, like Phoenix, Punisher, and Moon Knight, which absolutely feed ult charge, and dive characters slowing the enemy team's ult charge to a halt. And now that you know the pacings of ults basically, look at the scoreboard and take note of your healer's percentage every single time you look at the scoreboard, almost obsessively like we all do. We're all pressing tab over and over. You know whenever your support's ult, you'll see it. And by looking at the percentages periodically, you'll subconsciously get a feel for how long it actually takes for a support ult to come up, and you'll find yourself kind of magically, once you start taking note of this, backing up because you know the fight's about to turn into an ult dump, and there's nothing worse than dying as a DPS right before the support ults come out, and you don't have anybody to actually pressure with your cloak ult, no way to force out an enemy ult, or get a pick on top of all the chaos that's being created. And almost equally important to timing support ults is learning to read KDAs. Learning to read KDAs is something no one talks about, but it's crazy easy, game-changing, and feels like a cheat code. It's not just to take note of who you should flame after the game is over either. You just capped the first point in overtime, so you have a little bit of time on the clock. Look at the scoreboard and everyone has a similar amount of kills, besides the Hela on your team. What's the problem? It's probably not that they're missing their shots. 40% accuracy is atrocious for a Hela player, but that's still plenty to at least be involved in almost every kill. You can't see final kills yet. Sometimes people are just stinking it up. I get that. But what that means is the character is operating in a space that is weak for your team. They're operating around a weak point for some reason. Whether it's a Hulk distracting the enemy team's backline, but no one is targeting the backline with him, so he can't muster quite enough damage to actually finish out a kill, or a Magneto that is left solo holding the front line against an Emma which is rendering him absolutely useless because she's gonna run through it. Realizing that a low KD is not because a player on your team sucks, which most of the time they don't. It's because your team has a weakness, and you, as an aware player, can shift your focus to picking up on your weak link. Focus on realizing when your Hulk is jumping in, fly to their backline as Star-Lord and start spinning on them, help the hell up with the divers or flank Psylocke that has a snowflake. It's very nuanced, but stop looking at low KD as a bad player. Instead, view it as an underperformance because they're in a bad situation, and view it as something to fix to skyrocket your win rate. You have a visible way to see what the weak link is, and it's probably just not because that player is playing bad. Listen, worrying about your rank is tanking your potential. I've had so many people tell me they don't know how I exclusively solo queue because solo queue scares them. And it's very simple. My motto is, I don't care what rank I am, but I want to improve so much this season that whatever rank I am is easy for me next season. This is my anecdote. When I first started playing Valorant, I got placed bronze, feeling horrible, and very quickly demoted to iron, which I didn't even know real people existed down there. I put together an improvement program, disassociated from my rank. I was tilt queuing, if you want to call it that. And in less than 3 months of sticking to my program, I was sitting pretty in the top 700, which isn't crazy, but it was good for what I was going for. And roughly the same thing happened in Marvel. I went from hard stuck plat, like a lot of you, to at least top 0.1%, putting in less than 20 hours a week over the course of about 4 months. Instead of worrying about your rank and winning or losing, write down 3 questions. What went wrong and why? What was working and why? And what are 3 things I could have tried to do a little differently? If you answer all 3 of those after every game, improvement is guaranteed. Go in detail as much as you can. And now, the game is no longer about winning or losing. You're just collecting data points to aid in your improvement, and I guarantee your improvement will be pretty linear once you start to implement that. Marvel Rivals is a fast-paced game with a lower time to kill, at least for most characters, and it's difficult for healers to heal everyone. And staying mobile while shooting is one of the skill gaps that separates the good from the great because you're living longer, and probably more importantly, you're taking pressure off of your healers in key moments. But don't just stay mobile, blindly jumping around. We all know it's way easier to hit a target when your feet are planted and you kind of have a second. So here's my big tip. Practice the mobility shooting. I came from Valorant with a ton of hours on aim trainers, both of which have 0 movement when shooting. And it was over a month in until it occurred to me why I was missing so many shots that should have been easy. I've never practiced jump shots or strafe shots like that, so the pattern was foreign to me. And it's an easy fix that brought my accuracy on Hela from the low 40s-ish to above 50 almost every game. Sit in the range, aim at a variety of targets at a variety of speeds, and focus on long strafing and hitting shots while moving back and forth. Next, stand still. Practice jump shots. Jump just a little bit. Incorporate a little bit of strafe into the jumps whenever you start to get comfortable with it, and with enough time, you'll slowly start to bridge the gap, and it shouldn't take too long. You'll start naturally getting a pace for how you like to shoot whenever you're moving, because it is like a pace type thing. You gotta feel the rhythm of it. Don't practice your aim when stationary and expect it to carry over like I did. Practicing your aim is very important at the base level, but get comfortable with the inertia and the camera sway, and watch your accuracy skyrocket whenever you do a little bit of intentional practice on this one specific regimen. Your team doesn't suck. Rely on them to do something, and be the one that pushes their play over the edge to the point of success. Listen, if you play ranked in Marvel Rivals, you need to hear this. And I might be the only one saying this, to be honest. Your team doesn't suck. As long as you're playing ranked and you're not smurfing, which is cringe anyway, your teammates are at a relatively similar skill level to you, although they may be skilled at a different aspect of the game than you. If you look at their match history, they're not feeding every game. If so, they wouldn't be in your rank, they would derank out of it. It's a team game after all, and as much as we hate to have to, you have to rely on your team to do their job. If support ults are up, expect it to be used. If Strange is going too deep, it's probably for a good reason. Maybe Cloak's cooldowns are down and he thinks he can get a free kill. You should probably follow up. Don't think he's just overextending and probably going to die. If your Hela is taking crazy off angles that seem horrible, that's probably the only place she feels comfortable in this team comp, so give her a snowflake or just be ready to double team the Star-Lord that's probably going to check her like they always do. If you're tanking with a Bucky on your team, stop running to your backline as Strange whenever the divers come in. Let Bucky do his job. Because whenever you come back to hit the divers and let the front line collapse, now your healers have to worry about 2 tanks and the diver that's now getting healed, and it's no longer even a dive, it's just a team fight where they're all on top of you. Expect your team to do what they're supposed to do and find a way to enable them to make it happen. You can't carry every game. Ranked is a numbers game. You just want to make a 5% difference, and carrying a 55% win rate is absolutely incredible if you can shoot for that. I'll be honest, it took me way too long to realize this in Marvel Rivals. If your ult is up, stop hitting tanks. It's that simple, and I only ever see it when I start getting eternities and one above alls in my games. Obviously, if someone is diving or healers or a tank is out of position, go for the kill. But in that pre-fight posturing poke phase that happens before every team fight, hitting tanks, if it's giving you 0 ult charge, is doing nothing but feeding the enemy tank and support ult charge, dropping your win percentage ever so slightly with every time you hit one. And I started doing this, and I noticed my healers are now outpacing theirs by a ton, especially in the early stages of the round, whenever the support ults kind of determine the first fight. The duelists never got to use theirs, especially on like Hela and Phoenix, which takes a little bit longer. Just leave the tanks alone. Off angle, hit the duelists and supports, anyone that's not getting heal botted and has a chance to die, and watch your healers dominate the next fight because their ults are up way sooner because the other team's still feeding their support ults. You're the only one that's not hitting tanks apparently. Instead, use that time to get high ground or a spot where your ult's going to be pretty dominant, or just gets to a high quality distraction spot that forces the enemy team out of position to make you move, and you just used your escape to get away, wasting like a full 15 seconds of their time, which is going to even further progress your supports getting their ults up before theirs do. It's these little things that add up over and over that kind of increase your win rate and eventually skyrocket your rank. So whenever your ult is up, stop hitting tanks, look for a good way to use your ult or off angles or high ground to pressure anyone that's not immediately getting heal botted to apply more pressure. And if you made it this far, as always, you're a real one. Subscribe with the bell on, drop a like, comment W, and follow me on Twitch. I'll see you guys very, very soon. Peace!